You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a charm, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag
For what?
with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club,
Why?
buy some bottles, impress them girls.
what?
It's more than life.
Oh, fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And I'm Ethan. And whew, that first day of tampering for free agency, that may have been the worst one I can ever remember. That was just pain after pain after pain, and it wasn't just that Saints free agents were going and signing to other teams. It was that they were going and signing to NFC rivals, you know, the Falcons, the Panthers, and then on top of that, we're sitting back and watching the Saints do nothing in free agency, and then the Falcons and the Panthers are adding more quality players. But anyways, let's get into that right now. So can I get a menu? And I just kind of want to go over those first four players that they Saints lost in free agency, who they lost and where they went, and how it affected their cap, because that dead cap that you get after losing a player where you've pushed their contract back and you've added fake years and things like that, that alone, that was almost more painful than losing the players in themselves, because honestly, besides maybe Caden Ellis and David Onyemata, none of those bothered me that much. And Caden Ellis was probably the only one that the Saints could have brought back because his contract wasn't ridiculous. But all the other ones, you know, just on the D-line market alone, seemed to be inflated. But let's go over these four contracts and kind of talk about them a little bit more. So David Onyemata, right when free agency opened up, boom, he was gone. He was to the Falcons, and that was on a 3-year, $35 million, 24 and a half guaranteed, and that's $12 million per. But that, you know, that's a big loss. You know, that's one of the Saints starting defensive linemen, and he's been a great player for them over the year. I will say it's a little suspect that his play has kind of gone down since he got popped for PEDs a couple of years ago. I guess that was about 2 years ago. And he's about to be 31 years old. So, you know, seeing him get signed to that big contract by the Falcons, it seemed to be a little bit of an overpay, maybe a lot of an overpay. You know, it hurt, but he's also going to be 31 years old as well this season. But what hurt the most was once you lost him, you accrued a dead cap hit of $10.2 million. Like, that was what was most painful about that. Like, you would have been better off keeping him. The cap hit that you would have probably got would have been less if you actually kept him. But you know, I don't think he's he's a good player, but at this point in his career, and that he's not on the juice anymore, I don't think he was worth what the Falcons gave him. That 12 million a year, 35 million total, 24 and a half guaranteed. I just don't see it. And then shortly after that, both of the Saints starting defensive tackles, they're just gone. Then Shy Tuttle, he signs a deal for 3 million, 3 years, 19 and a half million, 13 million guaranteed. And once again, they're leaving. They're leaving for the rivals, the NFC rivals, and he goes to the Panthers. And it's just like, what is the deal? There's some collusion or something going on here with Saints defensive tackles wanting to go to NFC rivals. But once again, that seemed like a bit of an overpay as well. But at least with Shy Tuttle, he wasn't a draft pick. He wasn't a player that ever got a second contract from the New Orleans Saints. So as far as I know, they didn't get any cap hit added on to their already high cap hit that they're trying to cut down. And then it's kind of funny because they're not necessarily in conference rival or in division rival, but still a rival. We have Marcus Davenport. He signs a 1-year deal worth 13 million to who else? The Minnesota Vikings. So they're just as bad, honestly, as the Falcons and the Panthers. But 13 million for 1 year, the Saints could, just with how he played last year and with all the injuries, I just couldn't see the Saints paying that because that's a big deal. Because just a couple of years ago, Trey Hendrickson left for a deal to the Bengals for that was 14, 15 million a year. It was a multi-year deal, but still, Marcus Davenport is not as good, has not played as good at least, has maybe the potential, but hasn't played near as good as Trey Hendrickson. And like once again, the thing that hurts about losing Marcus Davenport is you accrue a dead cap hit of $7.6 million. So like once again, it would have been nice to keep him so you don't get such a big cap hit. But I'm not paying Marcus Davenport, Mr. Half a Sack, 2 first, 13 million a year. He's just not worth it. But obviously the Vikings want to give him a 1-year prove it deal. That's fine. It's annoying, and it's annoying that they're going to those teams. And once again, we have another annoyance. Talking about them going to those teams, we have Caden Ellis signing a 3-year deal worth 21.5 million, 11 million guaranteed. And just do the math. I didn't have that pulled up. I'll do the math real quick. 2100. That's about 7 million a year, and I think that is reasonable. I thought maybe the Saints would maybe be able to get lucky and bring him back around that 5 million a year range, but there's talk saying that maybe he didn't want to come back and to the Saints because they already have their 2 starting linebackers and Pete Warner and Demario Davis. So maybe he just didn't want to be a spot starter or be that third linebacker because that 7 million doesn't seem too ridiculous, honestly. I could have seen them doing that, but it's a little out of what I thought that they may have to pay for him. I was thinking more 5. So all those are just. I don't know if they hurt the team as much. Losing both your starting defensive tackles, of course, that's going to hurt. But they really weren't good last year on the interior. So hopes that maybe they can sign a cheaper veteran option and maybe draft someone in the first 2 rounds. That's what I think of when I think about losing those 2 starting defensive tackles. And then just Caden Ellis, he just seemed like he had some potential, some ceiling to grow there because he was second on the team in sacks. He had 7 or 7.5 sacks for them last year. But that all hurts. But continuing with the pain on top of the Falcons and the Panthers seemingly getting better, then the Falcons signed maybe one of the hottest free agents on the market in Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates the third, because a lot of there's people around the league that think maybe he's the best safety in the league. So there they get better, and then this morning on Tuesday, they also signed Tyler Heineke, who honestly, when I've watched Tyler Heineke, I've been impressed by him. So I'm definitely annoyed that they have more of a reasonable starting option in Tyler Heineke than just Desmond Ritter. So that one stings as well because I think with the right amount of talent around him and a good offensive line, Tyler Heineke could end up being a pain in the butt of the Saints. So that they definitely in the first couple of days of free agency, I would say the Falcons have gotten better with their first three signings. And then on to the Panthers. Like I said, it's just this was yesterday was just the like I said the most annoying, the most painful day of free agency ever because not only the Saints were getting more dead cap hits, they were also having to set back and watch their division rivals get better. Because then the Panthers they signed Von Bell, who was an ex-Saint, and that really hit home because that still feels like basically losing a Saint. That still feels like I know he hasn't played for the Saints for 2 3 years, but that still felt like some you know just uh, uh, just cheating, uh, turning your back on them, having Von Bell go to the Panthers, a former division rival of him, that just what felt wrong. That felt dirty. And he out of all these players mentioned, David Onyemata, Shy Tuttle, Marcus Davenport, all of the ex Saints players, he was probably the best because he went on to the Bengals and ended up having a pretty good career. Not a career, but a couple seasons that he was there. He actually started catching interceptions and things like that, and also played in a Super Bowl and another AFC Championship. And then they signed uh, help continue to help their team and to help their offensive line. They added Bradley Bozeman, and honestly, I can't tell you much about Bradley Bozeman, but I'm sure in any little bit of help to help their offense and offensive line. It's just an annoying thing to step back and sit back and wait and watch. Uh, it's just man, it's draining watching your NFC rivals get better, and then so that's enough of that. Talking about um, the, the Saints division rivals and just rivals in general getting better. Let's see if the Saints got any better. Let's talk about that for a second and talk about maybe some options for the defensive tackles they lost. So the Saints big signing on the first day, or I guess it was just a tampering day. So this is a potential signing. What a signing that should be coming in a couple days is Jameis Winston. They actually I was blown away out of all the free agents for them to re-sign or not cut. I didn't see Jameis Winston actually coming back to the Saints and wanting to be a backup because uh, David Carr over the majority of his career has been an Iron Man. So the odds of Jameis Winston getting the start while being here this next season seems highly unlikely. Uh, Obviously, want to knock on wood and don't want to jinx him, but this seems very odd that Jameis Winston would want to come back for 1 year, 8 million per, that's not terrible for being a backup quarterback. And now I would say, other than maybe bringing back Andy Dalton, the Saints you could argue, have the best backup quarterback in the league. But I was just really surprised by that. But also the thing that helps is you don't. They had added some void years. I think that would have came up on a June 1st designation, and they would have had to incur some more dead cap if they would have lost Jameis Winston. So really, that on top of you have your quarterbacks now. You have your quarterbacks. You have Derek Carr. You have Jameis Winston. and you even, we they call him a tight end, but we even have Taysom Hill. So the quarterbacks are set. So that's nice, honestly. I can't complain about it too much. But now on to some potential like defensive tackles and some familiar names that I would not be upset if the Saints actually brought them back. And that's Sheldon Rankins and Malcolm Brown. That they're out there. They're guys that have played good when they were Saints. They're still relatively young. They had good seasons and had been healthy. But let's look at what Sheldon Rankins has done in his this last season. Even though he left the Saints in 2021 for the New York Jets, he played in all 16. Well, I guess not all 16, but 16 of 17 games in 2021, and then but wasn't a starter. Didn't really start. Only started 3 games. But last year he played in 15 of 17 games and started all of them. So let's look at those stats. So he had 1 fumble, 3 sacks, 43 tackles, 25 solo, 18 assists, 4 tackles for loss, and 17 or seven quarterback hits. Like those are not bad numbers for trying to replace all the defensive tackles we lost. I would be perfectly fine with him coming back. And it seems since he had like what some kind of bone spur or something that was causing him to have Achilles injuries. I think he had some kind of mental or medical issue where he had these spurs in his ankles that were catching his Achilles and making them tear. But ever since he had both of those shaved down, he seems as if he's been relatively healthy with the New York Jets. So that's an option I would like. And then Malcolm Brown, he has a weird story, honestly. Malcolm Brown, who was just the classic run stuffing nose tackle for the Saints, and he played for them for 2 years. But his story is kind of weird because the Saints traded him in 2021 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I can't remember what they got. I think they maybe got back like a 7th round pick or a 6th round pick for him. And I think they were doing that to try to just more than anything get rid of his cap hit. And the weird thing about him with his season with the Jacksonville Jaguars is that he played all 17 games. He started all 17 games. And this is 2021. This is 2021, not 2022. And then he had a pass deflection, 1 pass deflection, 2 sacks, 57 tackles, 30 solo, 27 assists, 4 tackles for loss, and three quarterback hits. Like those are good numbers for a nose tackle. I mean, you don't expect your nose tackle to get 5+ sacks a season, but he had a lot of tackles, and I haven't watched any personal tape. But the story that's weird about him is even though he played in 17 games for the Jaguars, started all 17 games and put up solid numbers, he didn't play on a team. No team signed him last year. That's very odd to me. And when the Saints were struggling with stopping the run in 2022, I would have been ecstatic if they would have signed Malcolm Brown again, signed him back. But it's just so odd. So I'm confused as to whether he's not playing anymore, or he was injured last year, or does he have some like character issues? I just don't understand that. I'm just very confused. But out of those 2 players, I would be happy if the Saints signed either one of those back. Signed either one of those, like because I don't think far off in talent and production. I don't think Shy Tuttle and David Onyemata are that much better. And honestly, I think Malcolm Brown, you could argue he was maybe the Saints' best defensive tackle in 2020. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. And just can we keep our fingers crossed that maybe the Saints will jump into this free agency uh, pool here soon? And I think they're just about under the cap, so maybe that'll give them some wiggle room. But other than that, who dat? And can I get a check, please?